Okay. Can we have a motion to accept tonight's agenda, please? All in favor? Aye. Dr. Harrison, over to you for updates.
So good evening, everyone, and it's, as always, a pleasure to see you. Tonight, we take some time to stop to recognize our Board of Education for their commitment to the school district. I believe it is fair to say that when running for such a position, one never knows what they truly are in store for. The past year has been no exception. Who would have ever thought you, would be serving in the midst of a pandemic and be faced with all the challenges we have shared this year? Despite these challenges, our board stood together for Irvington, our school community, and of course, our students. Through this challenge, you demonstrated your strength, your commitment by attending numerous meetings and reading countless reports from me on top of all of the layers of New York State guidance. Importantly, you demonstrated your trust in your staff and supported our work. And for this, we all thank you. Thank you for all you've done for our school community and that which you'll continue to do over the balance of the year. Our board, like our staff and the parent community, goes above and beyond and will always be sure to provide the best for our students. So, board trustees, thank you very, very much for all that you do on behalf of the school community. We greatly appreciate all the time and energy and the passion that you put into your work. That said, I do want to pause this point in my remarks this evening to allow a number of community members to join me in recognizing you for all the great work that you do tonight. On behalf of the district, there's a small token of our appreciation before you on the table for you to enjoy. But now we're going to invite some others to join us. So at this point in time, I'd like to promote our mayor, Mr. Brian Smith, to join us.
I think I can get video on here. There it is. Look at that. Hello, everybody. I'm sorry I can't join you in person as we usually do, but we did not want to let COVID stop us from expressing our deep gratitude on behalf of the entire village of Irvington for doing what is essentially a completely thankless job. I think the two, most difficult positions in the village that are often the most thankless are that of school board member and volunteer firefighter. They're very different roles. You have less 2 a.m. calls, but you have much more lengthy meetings. So, when we have great gratitude for all of that you do, you're in charge of everyone's most important things, their money and their children. And you do an unbelievable job being completely thoughtful and often with tasks and ideas and concepts that are beyond the average person's capabilities to comprehend, not even in a pandemic year. So it just takes a very special person to be willing to sit in your seats. And I think often we take it for granted because we have such great candidates every year, but this is that one day where we actually say thank you. And it's truly, a great privilege of mine to thank you on behalf of the village. I also would like to say that, the class of Irvington High School class of 1992 has finally taken everything over, having both the mayor and the school board president. I think we can now retire, Brian, and just go back to being regular citizens now. But thank you all so much for your contributions to our village and to our school district. And personally, as a parent, for everything you've done for my children, a recent graduate and a sophomore. So we couldn't be in better hands, and we really appreciate all you do. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Brian, very much. Jay, if we could now promote David Sotile, our Administrator Association President.
Good evening, everybody. I believe I'm on screen now. Thank you, Dr. Harrison, and thank you to the Board of Ed for a chance to say a few words. This is always a fun event and a fun opportunity to really, do some justice to the position of volunteer, particularly as it relates to the Board of Education. I've said before that the strength of our nation and the strength of any true democracy lies in the willingness of citizens to step forward and to serve others, and certainly anyone who takes the time and embodies the dedication that our board embodies, shows what it means to do just that. And so, as an administrator in our district for on my 12th year now, I have to tell you, I have never ceased to be amazed by the level of dedication that's present in the Irvington district. But as Dr. Harrison said a few minutes ago, this year is certainly very different in many ways. I think I've probably talked at meetings like this in the past about the dedication or the willingness to kind of give up all of your free time in town to talk about a school issue or this or that when your neighbor or your fellow Irvington citizen comes up to you and wants to just share a few thoughts about the district. But I can tell you, there's no question that this year is not like other years in that regard either. And I've been thinking a little bit in kind of getting ready for tonight, just thinking about the words of Dr. Martin Luther King, who said, the ultimate measure, and I'll paraphrase, the ultimate measure of a man, and my paraphrasing is, or woman, is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he or she stands at times of challenge and controversy. 2020 has brought both challenge and controversy. And I want to say that on behalf of the entire IAA, we have an incredible debt of thanks to pay to our Board of Ed for standing together, for the level of support that you have shown to our students, to our teachers, to our leadership team. And in a time when it is easy for any number of points of view to kind of move us in different directions or pull us apart, it's been clear to me and to us that you've worked to try to keep us together. So thank you for that. It's with enormous gratitude that I say that, and look forward to continuing our work together in the year to come. Thank you.
Thank you very much, David.
Thank you, Mr. Sotile.
Great. Thank you, David. And I'd now like to invite James Groven, our IFA president, to say a few words.
I prepared my remarks today. I don't like going off the cuff. So, but before I read the short statement, I do want to personally thank the board for all of their efforts through the pandemic, going into the summer and planning for this school year. And it's a testament to your hard work and Dr. Harrison's and the rest of the administrative team's hard work that we've remained open, and we've had only our one confirmed case so far. So what a tremendous job you've done. And here comes our IFA official recognition for you. John Updike said, "A leader is one who, out of madness or goodness, volunteers to take upon the woe of the people. There are few so foolish." He speaks to the quixotic endeavor that is leadership, and the idea that anyone who accepts the role must be either a bit mad or filled too much with goodness. Whatever the motivation, once elected, a leader speaks for the people and must strive to find the balance between the demands of individuals, groups, and institutions. The school is a microcosm of any large political system, with its customs and cultures, its policies and goals, its budgets and restrictions, and the real people who make up the often referred to stakeholders. The Irvington Faculty Association is pleased today to recognize the work, the sacrifice, and the commitment of our district trustees. I would be hard pressed to think of a volunteer job that serves as noble a purpose, requires as much time, and potentially pits your neighbors and friends against the decisions made as a deliberative body. Our schools are built around the principle of local control to provide a free and appropriate public education to all our students. This is no small task, and this year it has seemed to shift from the Herculean to the Sisyphean. Please accept our respect and recognition for your service to the community, your responsibility to our students, and your stewardship of the district's mission. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Groven.
Great. Thank you very, very much, James. Unfortunately, Leanne Sorreo, our CSEA Clerical Unit President, is unable to join us tonight, but she passed along a note that she asked that I share with the board tonight. Dear board members, I'm unable to be present tonight to extend my gratitude to you, but I, as well as our unit, want to thank you for your support and dedication to the Irvington Union Free School District, especially during these unprecedented times. We are fortunate to be partners in this wonderful school community, and we are hopeful and look forward to working together for a successful 2021 school year. Sincerely, Leanne, President of the CSEA Bargaining Unit. So thank you, Leanne. And now I would like to invite our partners from the IEF, the Irvington Education Foundation, to come forward. So Jay, please promote Nirja Patel and Venera Gianetto, please.
Hi, everyone. Like it's been said several times today, this year has been like no other, and you have really stepped up and taken on that elevated leadership. So thank you so much for guiding our district through these uncertain days. We really appreciate all your time and your hard work. So on behalf of the IEF board and as a parent, I would like to extend our gratitude and appreciation to each one of you. And we hope you enjoy the small token from our board for each one of you. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And we appreciate also all the efforts of the IF to provide wonderful opportunities for these students throughout the district.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Venera, and to all of those on the IEF board. And then finally, I would like to, Jay, promote Delina Cody and Dipna Kenny for the PTSA.
Okay, are we good? Can you hear us?
We hear you.
Okay, it's Delina. I don't know if you can see me or not. On behalf of our PTSA, we want to thank you for the incredibly hard work. Oh, hold on, start my video. Oh, look, there I am. Okay, hi everyone. On behalf of our PTSA, we want to thank you for the incredibly hard work you do on our board, especially over the last 6 months. To be honest, we don't think anyone actually knows all of what you do, but we're pretty sure that you have even more meetings than we do. And for that, we're very grateful. In all seriousness, we know you devote hours of time each month overseeing our school district, thinking through issues from our budget to our playgrounds, and how to educate our students from kindergarten through high school. We are proud to work in partnership with the Board of Education. And this year, we have some fantastic green mugs stuffed with mask lanyards, hand sanitizer, and a mask to show our appreciation. Maggie and Susan actually picked the cups out. And we were, sadly had to add all the masks and sanitizers. We hope that next year we'll be thanking you in person and we won't need any of the things in the cup. We really appreciate all that you do. Thank you. I'm done.
Thank you, Delina. And as you can see, I've already availed myself of the wonderful mask. So thank you very much.
Great. Well, thank you to all of our community members for joining us tonight and honoring our trustees for their commitment and all the great work that they do for our school district. So personally, and as the leader of the district, I want to thank you. Your leadership and partnership is second to none, and we greatly appreciate that.
Thank you, Dr. Harrison. I'm actually going to go off script for a minute. And while we certainly appreciate the recognition and the kind words from everyone in the community, I think as a board collectively, obviously it's the district's employees who have really made everything work and run so well for the reopening of schools. So we've decided as a board, and this will be adopted later though, to recognize all of the employees. So I'm going to take a moment to read the resolution that we're going to approve later this evening. So it's whereas the Irvington Union Free School Board acknowledges that while public school employees deserve recognition for their commitment to public school children year-round, these unprecedented times require additional acknowledgement and appreciation for the invaluable work and daily efforts of all those who work within our schools to make sure all children succeed. Whereas October 19 to 23, 2020 has been designated School Board Recognition Week by the New York State School Board Association, the Irvington Union Free School District Board of Education believes that October 19 to 23, 2020 should be similarly utilized to recognize public school employees and to raise community awareness and understanding about the crucial role that public school employees play within a school district. And whereas it is only through the hard work, enthusiasm, and dedication of district employees that the Irvington Union Free School District has been able to reopen and maintain the reopening of its schools for in-person and remote learning during the COVID-19 pandemic. And whereas these essential employees, all working together to support the Irvington Union Free School District public schools, are committed to serving their school communities and are essential to the critical functions of the village, county, state, and nation during the pandemic, despite the rapid intensification of the daily lives of all working to support the Irvington Union Free School District public schools. Whereas the safety, academic education, and social emotional learning of all children in our schools is of paramount importance, and whereas a good public education is integral to the success and growth of our local communities, New York State, and the United States of America, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Irvington School District recognizes October 19 to 23, 2020 as Irvington Schools Employee Recognition Week, and in doing so honors the critical work of all Irvington Union Free School District employees. We honor those employees in every role and at every level for their dedication to promoting the success of our children and our community. So to all the district's employees, on behalf of the entire board, thank you.
Yeah. So thank you very much, trustees. I think that is an incredible honor and one that is certainly deserved, as we know our faculty and staff have done an incredible job in preparing for this school year and continue to make all the necessary sacrifices to ensure our students receive the very best education and are cared for each and every day. So thank you. That gesture is greatly, greatly appreciated by all of us.
Thank you. Back to you, Dr. Harrison, to continue.
Sure. So I have a few other items. I did want to provide an update on the Daos Lane closure. As the community knows, last week we were pleased to welcome our Daos Lane students and staff back from a 2-week-long closure that resulted from a single COVID case. The closure wasn't fully the result of a positive COVID case, but that of a shortage of staffing. Unfortunately, we had 13 staff members who were quarantined, which was then compounded by other staff absences. We would have had a total of 19 staff members, or approximately 20% of the staff absent. As a result, the decision I made to close school for in-person learning was clear, but still very difficult because of how important it is for our students to be present in school. While there have been similar instances of closures throughout the region due to staffing shortages, we have taken a look at our scheduling and made adjustments to limit the number of specialists physically visiting classrooms to limit possible exposure in the future. So like with all instances, there were lessons learned, and we came away from the situation better prepared to deal with the next positive case that may surface. While this was an undesired situation for the school community to deal with, one positive that we should all take away from it is the fact that our health and safety protocols work. Despite having had the single positive case of COVID in Daos Lane, no one else contracted it. So here are my thanks to our students, our staff, and our parent community for doing your part in keeping one another safe. We have had lots of ongoing conversation related to the reopening of school. And as community and trustees will recall, as we headed through the final days of summer, we made some modifications to our reopening plan as it pertained to kindergarten and first grade. Here, rather than attending in the hybrid model, which was 2 days in person and 3 days remotely, our youngest students now attend school in an AM/PM model, still following the cohort concept though. In recent weeks, parents, and importantly, faculty and administration have suggested that this model must be explored for other elementary grades. Knowing that the teachers and administration are supportive of this expansion, the district administration reviewed the viability from an operational standpoint. Here, taking a look at the school schedule, cleaning needs, and transportation. Through that review, we determined that we can possibly expand this AM/PM model to our second and third grade, but we need to be sure that we can afford all the necessary staffing and supply needs for cleaning and have the staffing to perform this critical work. With this information in hand, Ms. Ellis convened the Curriculum Instruction Subcommittee from the reopening planning process to review the second and third grade potential here. Having just met on Thursday, the subcommittee felt that the administration should take the final steps to analyze this opportunity and, if it is still viable, to survey the parent community for interest. Additionally, we will take a similar look at the AM/PM model for the 4th and 5th grade. This will begin with the logistics associated with it and discussion with faculty before it is more deeply explored. In addition to the financial and operational reviews, we are also considering how to deliver specials in a different model so as to maximize in-person learning for our core content areas. So finally, as we explore each of these opportunities, it's going to be essential for the district to update the Board of Education and community on overall finances associated with the reopening and COVID. All these factors must be on the table as we look to make a recommendation, which I suspect will occur at our next board meeting on the 10th. Additionally, related to the reopening, as everyone knows, I continue to provide updates on our progress throughout the summer months and the beginning of the school year. And in this process, I was very transparent in sharing the challenges that we faced. These were communicated here in board meetings, my weekly Facebook Live sessions, and of course in written communications. One of those areas that I continue to provide updates on were delays associated with the orders of technology-related devices. I'm pleased to report that the balance of our Chromebook order has finally shipped and will be delivered to the district on Friday. Once our IT team has had the opportunity to ready the devices for student use, they will be distributed, and then we will truly be a one-to-one district during this critical time. The last couple items I want to share are related to athletics. I certainly am thrilled to know that our student athletes are back out there competing. Just this past week, we celebrated homecoming. And while it was not that typical homecoming experience with significant pomp and circumstance and pep rallies and a parade, it was thrilling to see our students out there competing and doing so with their Bulldog pride. Over the coming weeks and months, our students will continue to compete. However, we must remind the community that we have limitations put upon us by the New York State Department of Health and Section 1 athletics that guides the number of spectators that can be present. So to be compliant with each set of regulations, we are not able to welcome at-large community members, students, and friends to come view these competitions. I certainly know that is disappointing for everyone. However, it is a step that we must all take to make sure that the health and safety of our school community is first and foremost our top priority. At all of these events, only home team fans, and those fans are consisting of 2 guests, typically the parents or siblings of the home athletes competing. So that means, unfortunately, that teachers can't go see their students compete, friends can't go watch their friends compete, and our own parents can't go to away competitions. I want to thank everybody in advance for your understanding, and we know that the time will be here before we know it, hopefully, to be able to have a big celebration, to welcome back our student athletes, and to have that wonderful homecoming parade once again. Finally, this is the first, I think I'm going to share this message, and it'll be my last message of the evening, but one that the community will hear multiple times over the coming weeks. With the holiday season fast approaching, it is important that all school community members continue to be mindful of the steps that we need to take to combat the spread of COVID-19. While we don't want to dampen spirits during this special time of year, we must always practice the proven actions that will prevent spread. Wear a face mask, social distance, and wash your hands frequently. Additionally, the holiday season is also a time when many travel to visit family and friends or vacation. However, the Irvington UFSD, I encourage you to stay local and ask that you not visit states that are on that quarantine list or travel internationally. In the event that a student travels to any of these restricted locations, they must quarantine for 14 days before returning to school. Additionally, if any members of a household travel to these areas, they must quarantine away from their family to avoid others having to quarantine as well. For more information on these areas that are where there are travel restrictions, please visit either the New York State website or our reopening page that has all of these details. I want to thank the school community in advance for your cooperation, and I do hope that everyone manages to have a wonderful holiday season, but we keep the health and safety of everyone in the Irvington community in mind. Mr. Friedman, that's all I have this evening.
Thank you. I just had a couple clarifying questions as you were talking about the AM/PM model and for the next meeting. Were you anticipating that there'd actually be a recommendation made at the next meeting, or that the next meeting is going to be the opportunity to talk about the financial implications and where we sit budget-wise in that, just so I can understand timeline where we're at?
Yes, so I believe the next meeting will be inclusive of both. We will present the viability and the recommendation to move forward, but what the board and the administration will have to evaluate is the financial impacts of such an initiative's implementation. And I think we'll look at that both through the lenses of 2.3 and 3.4. Or I'm sorry, yes, 2.3 and 4.5.
My understanding is that the parents for those grades haven't been surveyed on it. Will there be a survey done before the next meeting so we can understand the community thinking on the topic, or where will that fit into it?
Yes, we anticipate that there'll be a parental survey prior to that date.
Okay. So I guess next we have our community comment period. If there's anyone from the community who wishes to make a comment at this point, you can put your name and address in the chat function and you'll be recognized.
Brian, I don't know if we actually accepted the agenda for this evening.
We did. Okay, seeing none, there'll be a second opportunity. I suggest we move on to the presentation for this evening. So I guess over either to you or Ms. Ellis.
I certainly look forward to kicking us off this evening. This year, the community is well aware that one of our primary focal points is in the development of a well-articulated K-12 SEL, and that is Social Emotional Learning Program. In doing so, we have partnered with CASEL, one of the leading organizations on SEL, to be able to help not only guide our work in developing a plan, but to provide the critical professional learning that is necessary. So when we think of our shared roles as leaders in the school community, it's important that we all work from a place of shared knowledge and that we all have common understandings around the topics in which we will be engaging as a school community. That said, CASEL is going to be working throughout the school district this year, providing staff development and facilitating our process whereby we will develop our plan for and our curriculum related to SEL for the entire school district. To start the school year in the administrative retreat back in August, we are fortunate enough to have 2 facilitators from CASEL lead a full-day workshop for the entire administrative team. Having had that experience, we believe that it's really important for us to share in that dialogue and for the trustees to participate in a learning experience related to the teachings of CASEL and the work around social emotional learning. So this evening, rather than a presentation, our Assistant Superintendent for Instruction, Mary Ellis, is going to lead a workshop for the trustees on the topic of SEL. So I'd like to invite Mary to join us to say a few words and kick off our workshop tonight. So Mary?
Thank you, Dr. Harrison, and to the members of the Board of Education, thank you for the opportunity to engage in collaborative learning with you tonight. Chris, if you could start our slides, that would be great.
Yep.
So as the visuals are prepared, I want to say again that tonight is not so much a presentation about SEL, nor is it meant to be an update about where we are in our process, although there'll be a little bit of that, but primarily about, again, our collaborative learning, building an understanding of what SEL is together for us as some of the adults who are in the Irvington educational community. Go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So as you know, one of the district's strategic objectives is related to social emotional learning, to foster the social emotional growth of all students and promote a culture where students are active participants in society. And I'd like to expand the idea of that because we are actually looking in development of a comprehensive plan, not only at students, but at all members of our educational community, those in classrooms, those that supports our facilities, those that manage our money, those that transport our students. Anyone who touches the life of a student in Irvington is part of this process. So as Dr. Harrison mentioned, we have partnered with CASEL to support our work on developing a comprehensive K-12 SEL plan. And it's incredibly important to recognize that this is not the beginning of SEL in Irvington. The buildings have been engaged in learning about social emotional learning, building programs, developing students' abilities in this area for a very, very long time. So one of the most important things that we want to do is honor that work that has already been done and bring it all together under the umbrella of a comprehensive K-12 program. Next slide, please. So this is a timeline developed using the CASEL roadmap for implementation. It's a 3-stage process of organizing, implementing, and then improving. And we are currently in focus area 1A, the first part of the organization phase, which is to build foundational support. And that's why we are including the Board of Education, who is so critical to support in our district, to engage in a conversation about what SEL actually is, to engage in learning alongside you so that you are well positioned to understand the work that we'll be proposing. You'll see some timelines in here. Several of them we're on time, as has been said many times tonight. This is a year like no other. So was most of the last school year from the spring on. So some of these timelines may need a little bit of adjustment. I do want to note that where it says focus area 3, which you see in the fall of 2021, where it says promote SEL for students. Again, we are already promoting SEL for students. That's the point at which in our K-12 comprehensive plan, we'll be looking at where the students fit into it. Before that, we're really going to be focusing on building the knowledge and the capacity of our adults to lead the work. Next slide, please. So I gave the Board of Education homework to do in preparation for this workshop, and I appreciate your cooperation in that. I had asked you to go to the Castle website where there is text as well as a brief video about what SEL actually is. So the Board of Education engaged in some learning on their own first to use that website to learn a little bit more about SEL. And then I had asked the board to please respond using a Padlet, which is what you'll see over there on the right. So our Board of Education members provided quotes that they thought were interesting, questions that they had, thoughts, and really just responses to the reading and the viewing. So we were using a flipped workshop model, since it's not a classroom, a flipped workshop model where the Board of Education prepared themselves for tonight's discussion with some reading, some viewing, and then some responding. So at this point in time, I'd like the board to, and all the members here, to engage in a conversation about the learning that occurred during that pre-learning that you engaged in last night. So Chris, if we could go to the next slide. And I'm going to ask for the board and other members present tonight to think about, based on what you learned and based on looking at the responses of your colleagues, what do you now know that you didn't know before about SEL? What has changed in your thinking as a result of the work that you did prior to this meeting? And what questions do you still have about SEL, what it is and what it is not? So I'm going to remind you that our focus tonight is really about what SEL is. It's not so much about how we're going to be implementing in Irvington. That update's going to come at a later meeting, but tonight it's really about us learning together. So I'm hoping that we can spend some time in conversation, a rather unstructured conversation. I know we often have very structured conversations, this one a little less structured, where people will feel comfortable sharing any thoughts they have based on these 3 questions, and then we can all engage in conversation. So I'm open for anybody who'd like to start to dive right in.
Sure. What do? I mute this?
Mute the computer, speak into the mic.
Okay. Thank you for doing this, Ms. Ellis. Very excited to learn about it.
Dave, I think you're.
You have to mute.
Okay.
There you go.
Still getting it. Okay. Anyway.
You should be good.
So I learned some really interesting things. I think one of the things that I learned the most about in reading and, sort of through the materials that you presented us with were that as we work to build, more equity into educational institutions, the SEL plays a huge role in that. That in order to execute any kind of equity plan, that there really has to be a fundamental base of social and emotional learning across all levels, whether it be community stakeholders or students or educators or administrators. So I really enjoyed learning that and getting into that a little bit. I think one quote that left me wondering, as we go forward, or not as we go forward, but as SEL sort of moves forward in the life of the educational institutions, is how do you integrate it into policy, right? Like, so practicing it curricularly, dealing with it on a day-to-day basis, but from a board's role, that was one question that I walked away with.
And I would say, David, that's I think an outstanding question. And I think one of the challenges for us tonight is going to be sitting through those positions where we don't want to answer every one of the questions, right? So Mary and I are going to document the questions that surface to make sure we present them in the process moving forward. So when we think about our work associated with developing that systemic approach, that we're just not thinking about the learning that has to happen, the lessons that have to be taught, the initiatives we have to launch, the curricular integration that has to occur, but we step back and we think about all the structures that are in place that support those pieces. So the question that you raise is one that's critical and that should be posed in that process. I know I can step back and come up with a quick answer and say, this is a great idea, we could do this, we could do that. But as Mary said before, this is really a stakeholder process. And in doing so, we want to make sure that we take that kind of question and we pose it to them to make sure we come up with the approach to answer the question. So here, when we think of policies, clearly it's our belief statements, right? It's what we believe in and the expectations that we have for our community. So as we develop our plan, there's going to have to be a process where we go through to make sure there's alignment. And I trust that from this work and you raising this important question that our committee is going to go in that direction, and we'll make sure that that is not overlooked.
Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Go ahead.
Oh, hi. I guess the thing that I didn't know until I read all the materials that you provided was the part about the return on investment being $11 for each dollar that is spent on the programming. I hadn't thought about the fact about the future of where those students who receive this kind of programming, how it impacts them for so many years, even after they've left our district. And I guess I still continue to have questions about how a school-based program would involve the community in a meaningful way. But I don't know if that has to wait until we're talking about what's going on specifically for Irvington schools.
Thank you. And I think as Dr. Harrison said, we're gathering your ideas, your thoughts. It's an opportunity for each of you to push each of us in our thinking about this and what it will look like moving forward. So Beth, thank you very much.
Anyone else have something they want to say?
Brian, it's Erin. Are we going in order?
No, we're not going in order. It's kind of a free for all. So go ahead.
Yes,
it's hard
for all. And
for all.
please feel free to respond to each other as well. It doesn't need to only be myself and Chris responding. We're all talking together.
First, I will say thank you, Mary. I love these formats. We did one last year. I think that was similar, and I find it really beneficial, and I think it plays to how I learn, so it's really helpful. I think so similar to what Dave said, I think I hadn't thought about the connection with equity. So that resonated with me as I went through the website. And then the other piece that I thought about which we keep talking about as we launch this during a pandemic, where we have kids online, we have kids in a hybrid model, we have kids in person. And so how does that just impact the whole model? And even like how much work has Castle even done in terms of understanding SEL in a remote environment, right? And how do you build those authentic relationships online? Like it's so much the aura that you give off in a classroom is often so different than your online personality, right? I mean, we see it when we watch TV, like, you watch Dancing with the Stars, some flourish and some just shrink. So I just wonder how building those relationships is impacted, and I'm hoping we can be just as successful in this mode that we're in. But it just seems that much more challenging, that they're really, they're flipping probably a lot of what they've done. So I don't know if, I don't know how that's been addressed, but that was my big takeaway.
So the concept of how to build classroom community when you're not all in a room is something that, clearly educators everywhere are grappling with right now. And we were very, very fortunate in having our psychologists, social workers, and guidance counselors do presentations at our opening superintendent conference days for the classroom teachers on some ideas, some thoughts about how to do that and how to think about where students were in their emotional state coming in and their availability to learn. Castle has actually done a lot of work in this area, and very quickly they have wonderful resources, so they're able to do that. So we've been making good use of that as well. But that you are 100% right that the impact of COVID has it's just huge right now, and for us to not take that into consideration would be a mistake.
Thanks, Mary.
So I mean, I'll say a few things. I mean, like Beth, I think obviously I think we're all aware of the benefits of social emotional learning, but seeing all the ways that the Castle literature quantified it was just interesting, and seeing all the different ways it can lead to positive outcomes and successes. So I think that was helpful, and something that I didn't maybe fully have a depth of understanding of before looking at that. And I think one of the things that also struck me was they were talking about a family school community partnership around social emotional learning. So we've always we've been having an ongoing dialogue about having a curriculum at the a K-12 continuum and a cohesive curriculum, but that's, I guess, one leg of the tripod. You obviously also have the family and the community, and I think understanding obviously we're going to be doing this great work within the schools and developing a more robust curriculum, but how we can engage both families to understand the work that's being done and how they can better support that work at home, and then also how community groups or other community resources can also be brought into the process to help reinforce the teaching and the habits that we're hoping to instill in the students. I think understanding how we can have, I guess, a holistic approach where it's obviously the kids are here for 8 hours a day, and we'll get the benefit of what we do in class, but they're awake for at least another 8 to 12 hours, and to see how we can engage and support them through the rest of that time was something that I was left with, and really had a question about how we can develop that further.
Brian, I love how you phrase that as a tripod, and thinking about this, I think you might be preparing yourself to author one of the upcoming publications from Castle, the tripod responsibility. But in thinking about this, we obviously make those connections with school, and we've highlighted that in multiple ways. And earlier this evening, we made connections with our partners, with the PTSA, the Ed Foundation, and the different employee unions, and obviously they each have roles. I think of so many grants that the IEF and PTSA have funded to be able to endorse this work, to be able to provide for layers of opportunity to enrich learning associated with SEL. But that community connection isn't always as strong. So here, I think it's a great reminder in that you raised that. And when we think about those initial partnerships that exist, whether it is the Community Advisory Board, the work that we do with the Department of Recreation, the Irvington Police Department, we already have structures and systems in place where we can seek that level of alignment. But then that broader question, like David's question about policy before, this is through this process, we have to start to reach out. How do we go deeper? How do we make those broader connections to bring resources to affect our students' experiences and to ensure that the community understands that which we value here in our school for our students. So I think that raises some fantastic points for us to make sure we underscore through our development process.
You know, and something that I was thinking of as you were actually just talking, you know, we also have our students who are involved in extracurricular activities, athletics, which aren't always led by a teacher or necessarily. It may be, you know, other people from outside the district. So I think to, you know, increase the awareness in that group, we're going to be working with the students as well so that they can, you know, continue some of the learning and the lessons that are going to be reinforced in the school day will carry over to the athletic field, chorus, band, you know, whatever other activities they're engaged in where there's that opportunity for, you know, continued development of those skills.
Yeah, and I think I'm so pleased to hear you make that connection with athletics. One of the things that we were thrilled with when we were recruiting a new athletic director this year was that our successful candidate, our new partner, John Bonamano, that he has a deep background in SEL. And actually, he is collaborating right now with the administrative team and coaches to put out a survey that is going to start to collect feedback on a lot of these points associated with the athletic program. So I think there's like lots of opportunity. We look at, you know, the reference to equity before and the work that we're partnering with NYU, the diversity committee on. We think about SEL piece and then some of the other independent work that continues to occur. And you see how it all comes together in alignment back to really our strategic objective that Mary highlighted at the top of the discussion. So, you know, we constantly talk about our strategic objectives, our real strategic approach to our shared leadership, and using those objectives as that checkpoint to make sure that we're on the right path. And I think that's a good reminder of like, here are 3 critical initiatives that are all aligned with objective number 3. So great points.
Mark, go ahead.
If I may, I would just observe that obviously in the implementation of another element of curricula that needs to be part of our sorry about that, mask difficulties here, a part of so what we're asking our students to understand and internalize comes with it a sense of limitation too. That is, a certain amount of facts, information, and achievement have to be balanced in order to have a healthy social emotional development, right? You have to balance. I'm gonna have to change masks. So if you have to balance your what you're wanting to accomplish in order to, so for say to be a high achiever, you also have to be able to maintain, right, your activities. You have to be able to maintain your academics. They don't live in separate worlds. And so I was interested in the idea as we succeed in bringing social emotional curricula into the district, in asking the community to look at when is, you know, what is enough, as opposed to, you know, there's sort of an unlimited sort of trajectory of achievement and accomplishment, and how you have to talk also about balance in that.
Yeah. And more, I think, and I wish I was able to switch my screens right now, because I know in my quotes, and I'll share, you'll be able to find which one of the Padlet comments was mine. But in the video that we watched in preparation for tonight, there's one gentleman who's a school leader who talks about having heart right? And then goes through all the different skills and the roles that a child has to play. And when we care for all these different components of the whole child, all the research points to the fact, not only do we have happier children, children that are better prepared to cope with the challenges of life, better prepared for success, enjoy better interpersonal experiences, but those same children also achieve greater heights academically. So when we think about doing this and developing this program, I think that idea of finding balance and making sure we're making the appropriate investments and developing that whole child are critical. And that there is kind of be those scales that we have to play with a little bit at times. But we have to make sure that we're making that investment in the whole child and that we're finding that real tipping point to know when maybe we're going too far as a community, as a district, as an individual teacher, as a superintendent, and setting goals and pushing people to do different things or to work harder. We have to know those limitations to ensure that we're always putting our children in the place to achieve their personal best.
Chris, was your posting on the Padlet titled Bringing Heart into Learning?
I believe that may have been one of them, yes.
I have the Padlet open, I will read it. SEL is about how to do school, help shape the ways in which young people understand themselves and other people. Children learn when their heart is open, engaged, connected, and filled with purpose.
Yeah. Right? That kind of comes down to like being human and making sure we're teaching to the child. We're just not teaching information, and we're supporting the growth of the individual, supporting the growth of someone that's going to become civically engaged, a part of their school community, that's going to be someone that pays it forward, someone that's going to be an upstander. It really speaks to the heart of what we're about as schools. And when we think about all the work that we do with how much of our meetings lately have been focused on logistics and managing crisis, we got to step back to make sure we're caring for our kids, because if they're not well emotionally, if they're not well physically, let's not worry about the other outcomes. But if we can care for those other components, we're going to land in a place where our children are prepared to learn, and we're going to get better results, and they're going to be able to take that to other places.
I'd also like to just remind ourselves again that SEL isn't only for the students, it's for every member of the school community, and learning a lot of these competencies as adults. There's often room to learn and can have a tremendous impact on a teacher's satisfaction with their job, their own relationships with other adults in the community, and with the children. So looking at how we are, as Dr. Harrison said, as humans, is for all of us, not just for the kids. Anyone else?
Well, since I guess I like to talk, I had just one other, I guess, really question, and it's not, an implementation in Irvington question, but really more of a global question in terms of, what SEL looks like at the secondary level versus the elementary level. I mean, at least in my head, I have a clearer understanding of what it looks like at the elementary level, where you have, students who are with one or two teachers for the majority of their day. You have morning meetings, you have other things that happen during the day, which I think present, a natural opportunity for SEL to be developed within the classroom. But I have a less of an understanding at the secondary level what that looks like and how those are folded into the curricula at the secondary level. So, I don't want to get into the nuts and bolts of Irvington implementation, which is, I think, something that will be helpful in the discussion going forward, what that will look like and how we'll be able to, have this K through 12 continuum.
And we will look forward to sharing that with you.
I'll add something else also that I thought about. It's Brian, you just made me think about it. You talk about elementary level, and I have a pretty long middle school background, and when I first started teaching, this was on the table. But one of the key things that I learned at the beginning, when we looked at the website, there was this really beautiful core competence area chart. It was like this circle within a circle within a circle. I can't describe. Maybe
You're going to see that wheel a lot.
Yeah. But there was one on there called self-management, and I think a lot of times we think about social emotional learning as a lot of feeling stuff and sort of very the emotional end more than the social end of it. And when I think of social end, I'm not just talking about how do we get along with each other, but also from a how do I organize myself method. I mean, that's a real important part of social emotional learning, is students learning how at the secondary level, the early secondary level in the middle school, is really like, wow, I'm going to multiple classes, and what does that do to my brain and sort of how I keep up with things, and my folders, and having we used to have the trapper keepers or whatever, or whatever, but all the different. I mean, you could get lost, and once you get lost, then it gets into that emotional place. But if you learn how to organize, well, I think that's another way it manifests itself into the upper grades, is what you made me think about, Brian.
Yeah. And David, I think here, just as made the connection before in Mary referencing strategic objective number 3. When we think about our strategic planning process, what sat at the foundation of a lot of that work, is mission, vision, theories of action, right? And when we think about our theories of action, embedded within our theories of action is the dispositions that we value in our students, right? Those that we want to teach into as educators. And one of those that stands out to me, and again, this is coming right back to the core of where we are strategically. So this is something I think like we all should really be proud of, because this is that work continuing to come through, is that idea of resiliency, self-reliance. And that really comes into that piece of self-management, right? How do I survive in this complex world and environment? How do the skills to know when I need to ask for help, when I can push myself to do more? So you speak right into that. So again, to me, it's like I'm smiling behind my mask, because it continues to reinforce the evolution of that work that we set out with as our goals how long ago. So really good stuff.
David, I think you bring up a very important point, that social emotional learning isn't only about how we relate to others, but it is also about self-knowledge. And as you said, self-management. And then how do we balance those things, and how do we then use those things to have a positive impact moving out into our families, into our community? So how does it ripple out? So that idea of that it's not only interpersonal, but it's yourself as well. And there was an interesting comment on the Padlet, I don't know who put it, about the fact that there's so much that we teach in school about presentations, about communication. And what about the introverts? What about the people who feel more comfortable, maybe just listening, who are also still learning, right? So that idea of being aware of who you are and how you prefer to interact with your environment can also be an important part of that self-management. Anyone else? All right, so thank you so much. I very much appreciate, again, you're letting me assign you homework and completing it. It was really, really wonderful to look at all the comments and questions on the Padlet, and I think it will form a great beginning for us to share with the SEL committee in terms of what the board is thinking about. I'm going to open up that Padlet so that you can make comments on it if you choose to with each other now that we've had a chance to do this, if you want to go back and continue the conversation through the Padlet. So again, thank you. We'll use the notes from tonight. We'll use the Padlet to help inform our work. And we look forward to coming back next time and giving you an update on our progress. So thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Ellis, for the opportunity to have this discussion.
Yeah, thank you, Mary.
My pleasure.
So now we move on to our consent agenda. And before we do so, are there any questions on tonight's consent agenda? Okay, can we get a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So, Dr. Harris, I don't know if you want to make some comments on.
I often enjoy doing.
Yes.
Again, importantly, want to thank the Board of Education for that really touching, supportive resolution that you passed this evening. And I personally am going to post on our district media tomorrow, acknowledging this week that the board has defined as Irvington Schools Employee Recognition Week. And I am also going to put out a press release tomorrow looking to honor the great work that our faculty and staff do each and every day. That said, our agenda is light on some of the typical items that where we're celebrating appointments and beginning of careers, but tonight we have the opportunity to acknowledge mid-year tenure appointments for two wonderful faculty members, Jessica Foreman, who is a high school science teacher, and Paul Scataretico, one of our music department teachers. Both of them will earn their tenure in mid-December. So I want to congratulate both Jess and Paul, but to really thank them for the incredible work that they do for our children each and every day. Both have become incredibly valued members of our school communities that make a difference in our students' lives. So congratulations to Jess and to Paul, and thanking the board for endorsing the great work that they do through this action as well. Other than that, we do recognize a few coaching shifts. One item to point out that this year we've actually added another cross-country coach, and it's for really good reason, in that we have record numbers of participation in our record-winning cross-country program. We have like 70 student athletes participating. And really, when we think of not only the nature of cross-country with our athletes being out and about running trails, we really need to make sure that they're well supervised and well coached. So here what we've done, one of our modified coaches, Mr. Buckley, is stepping up to be an assistant for the varsity program. And then we will be adding another modified coaching position to kind of backfill his position. Just an interesting note, Mr. Buckley, if you don't know him, is one of our amazing retired educators that still is bleeding his bulldog green and coaching our students long after his teaching days had ended. So we're thrilled to have Mr. Buckley still working with us in that capacity. And then we have a couple donations to scholarship funds that we do appreciate and thank those that are supporting our students in their future studies.
Thank you, Dr. Harrison. Again, we have our time for any community comment or questions. So to the extent there are any, we'll pause for a minute. Seeing none, our next meeting will be Tuesday, November 10th at 7:30 here, as well as via Zoom. Actually, the board is not going to meet in executive session this evening, so at this point, if we can have a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting, please. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Have a good night, everyone.
Have a good night. Bye-bye. Thanks.